My name is Paulette George, and I am the proud mom of two children, Matthew and Christina. And Christina was our second child, born in June. She seemed perfectly healthy. She scored a 10 on her APGAR. 7 months later, however, Christina developed seizures. They began about 48 hours after she had had immunizations. What was frightening for us, we had never seen a seizure before. We didn't know what a seizure was like. We didn't know what to do when one began. And when they started for Christina, they were more than 100 a day. And for us, it was a whirlwind. It took us from the normal quote unquote family to a family with a critically ill child pretty much overnight. So we tried at that point to get her seizure free with medications, and we worked nonstop with the neurologist to perfect medications. However, nothing worked. Christina was, seizure free for a little while on one of the medications, but it was very shortly after that we realized medications weren't working. She had tried every anti-seizure drug available at the time, and we finally started looking other places, asking questions, wondering if there were other options. I was in the hospital with Christina. We were in San Antonio, Texas at the time, and my sister had called and said there was a diet that she had seen or heard about in a movie. And I have to tell you, at first I thought, are you kidding me? A diet for seizures. It just doesn't make any sense when medication seemed to be the high-tech cure for everything. So at that time, I ignored what she was saying, and we continued to try the medications. So Christina was in the hospital, and the anti-seizure medications wouldn't work. We were really worried about her because on top of it, she had contracted an illness and wasn't able to eat or keep food down. Ironically, during that time, she had stopped having seizures. And I remember my sister had told me the ketogenic diet, which is the diet she was talking about at the time, had simulated fasting. So I approached the doctor and asked if we could put Christina on the diet. And he explained to me that the ketogenic diet wasn't for children of her age. It was not safe. So we let that go and continued to pursue medications. After a misdiagnosis and 6 months of more than 100 seizures a day, we knew we had to do something. I decided it was time to go into prayer, and I was pretty upset when I was talking to God that day. And I said, I need help. I can't do this by myself. And I really was never alone, but it felt like I was. And at the time, I was looking for answers. And I had a pivotal moment. It was kind of like a pivotal circumstance that changed something in me, and I decided it was time for me to become an advocate for my daughter and go to the library and learn as much as I could about seizures and epilepsy. And while I was there, I learned that the ketogenic diet had been used since the 1920s at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and that it had been successful with young children. So we decided at that point it was time to fly Christina 1,200 miles and bring her to Mayo Clinic. Now, I grew up in Minnesota, so it was it wasn't an unfamiliar place we were going to, but it was certainly a whole unfamiliar new facility. But when we arrived in Rochester, they were more than ready. Christina was given the proper testing. At that time, they discovered a tumor in her right temporal lobe that was previously missed on the original MRI that was done. And we perfected the ketogenic diet for Christina because none of the anti-seizure meds worked, so they knew that the diet was our only hope for seizure control. So we returned home and had 1 month seizure-free, and it was amazing. The diet was controlling Christina's seizures. At that point, after a month, Christina had gotten sick and needed to have IV fluids. And we were in the hospital for a few days, and the seizures came back, only worse than before. It was terrifying. We ended up contacting Mayo, letting her doctor up here know what was going on. and asking for assistance and a second opinion. While I was on the phone with him, I asked him, I said, she hasn't been able to eat once again, so wouldn't the diet be working? And he asked me to look up at the IV bag, and I did. And he asked me to spell what was on the front of it, and I spelled dextrose. Dextrose is a sugar. It was not the right IV solution for Christina, and what that did was it threw the diet's balance off. So as soon as we got Christina hydrated again, we realized it was time to bring her back to the clinic that was able to treat her and that knew the diet well enough so that she was able to be put on it successfully. We came back here. We learned that Christine had a flu bug and an infection they were able to treat and save her life. And so we decided it was time to move. And we moved to Wisconsin to be a one-day drive to Mayo Clinic. The great thing about that was we were able to get her up here within a day's drive if she needed to have an MRI or any other treatment. So at this point, Christina is not seizure-free because of the introduction of the dextrose, and we were trying all different ways to tweak the diet, is what we called it. And Susan Eckert was the dietitian that took care of Christina, and she did an amazing job. She was constantly in contact with us. She was constantly sending recipes back and forth, helping us to find the perfect balance that we once had achieved. It took 13 months before we were able to do that. And Christina at this point was severe to moderate for autism. She would not, she walked, but she would not walk successfully. She would fall often. She did not speak. And it looked like, from a development point of view, it didn't look good. But we continued to pray and believe in the diet. We knew the history. We knew that the diet was originally developed at Mayo Clinic in the 1920s based on scripture. It simulates fasting in the body, and we knew that that was the treatment for her. We just felt it. We believed in it. So we continued alongside the doctor, trying to perfect it. When Christina was 3.5 years old, when she was 2.5 years old, she became seizure-free on the ketogenic diet, and when she was 3.5, we heard her speak for the very first time. 6 months after she became seizure-free for the second time, we removed all anti-seizure medications, and the diet alone was Christina's treatment for seizures. We were successful. Christina was successfully seizure-free on the diet for 2 full years, which is usually the recommended time. She had another EEG performed, and for the very first time since the day the seizures began, Christina had a normal EEG with just a mild slowing in the background, and the recommendation was to remove the ketogenic diet slowly. So we began to remove it, and we were just shocked when the seizures returned. And we thought, oh my gosh, what happened here? We need to put her back on the diet. We need to find a way to help her become seizure-free again. And the team of doctors here took a look at everything that was in Christina's file. They did intricate testing, and I'll never forget this day. We had a test called an MRI co-registered with SPECT scan, which was recently developed a few years earlier here at Mayo Clinic. The doctor came in after running that test with his arms out and with the MRI images, the X-rays, and all of the testing that Christina had done, and he put them all on top of each other, and he said, "You won't believe this. Her seizures are located in the right temporal lobe of her brain, where the tumor had been. Previous to that, she was seizing generalized, which meant her whole brain was having seizure activity, and so they couldn't just go in and remove any portion. It just wouldn't have had an effect. The miracle of that time was that the diet had paved the way for her to have this brain surgery. It was an amazing thing, because if we had not had those 2 years seizure-free on the ketogenic diet, we would not be at the place we were where Christina where the doctors had the option of physically removing a tumor. So the tumor, or the recommendation at that time, was to remove the right side of her brain, the right temporal lobe, which of course was a terrifying thing for any parent to hear. We, prayed about it, talked about it, and decided that based on the knowledge that they had here and the expertise, that we would allow that kind of surgery. And so Christina had the right temporal lobe of her brain removed on December 21st at St. Mary's Hospital, Mayo Clinic. And we remembered that week there that we were in the hospital, she had a few absent seizures, which were attributed to the swelling from the surgery, but they were nothing like the seizures she had before. And so our hopes when we brought her home would be that she was now seizure-free. In the hospital, Christmas Day 2001 was the very, very last absent seizure that Christina had, and she never had another seizure. 2 years after that, Christina entered kindergarten. She was 6 years old. For the very first time, Christina not only had begun to speak, but she had begun to show us signs that she was developing and learning. We had first quarter awards at her kindergarten class, and I'll never forget this. we were sitting in the front row, and the awards were given out, and usually special kids, special ed kids always got a kind of a generic award for coloring or for whatever their achievement was, which was a huge thing. And so we were expecting the normal awards for Christina, and what was amazing to us, she walked up, her name was called, she walked up, the teacher handed her the award and said, for overall academic performance in her class, Christina George. And there were tears throughout the audience because many knew our story. But what was amazing to us was not only did we have 2 years seizure-free on the ketogenic diet that paved the way for her brain surgery, but Christina started to develop afterwards because she now was able to think without the seizures affecting every moment of her life. So from then on, Christina remained seizure-free, of course, and has developed into, a busy, thriving young girl. She is just turned 12. She turned 12 in June. And Christina is active at school, no special ed support, and she is now seizure-free for 8 years. And, we just are very excited to share our story and extremely blessed that we are where we are. And we thank Mayo for that. We thank the doctors, the staff. We thank the amazing development of the ketogenic diet and all the technology that they used here. It was wonderful for us. So thank you, Mayo. I recently wrote and was able to find a publisher for Christina's story. Christina's story was just released. It's called Good Morning Beautiful, Winning the Battle Over Seizures. And Christina, how do you feel about that actually? That there's a book written about your journey through seizures and epilepsy and all the treatments that you had.
I'm really happy because more people know about me than just maybe a few people.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it'll help other people?
It'll probably help other people who have children who have seizures. Because when I was little, when I had the diet, I started singing the songs to the radio station, to the song Good Morning Beautiful.
When Christina was 2.5, she was diagnosed severe to moderate for autism. She walked barely. She was very loose jointed, and she did not speak. We still had not heard her say mom. She babbled a little bit, but hearing words from Christina was not yet happening. When we finally did get her seizure-free on the ketogenic diet, a year later she began to speak. And they were just very immature words, when like a baby first starts to babble and speak. And so here we were, 3.5 years old. She was actually going on 4 at the time this happened. And she came through, I remember I was doing laundry and the seizures, we had started to remove the ketogenic diet. And the seizures had come back, and we were getting ready for a second trip to Mayo, where they were going to be doing intricate testing. And I was very sad. I was in the laundry room, folding laundry. She was just a few feet away from me in the next room playing, and I could hear her. And I heard her get up, and she kind of padded through the hallway. And as she was walking, it sounded like a baby babbling. And I was like, what are you doing? And I followed after her, and she went right to the television where we had the country music station on. And I remember kind of looking at her and looking at the TV and looking at her, and then the TV going, are you saying the chorus to this song? So I turned the volume up, and sure enough, she was repeating the chorus to that song. And now what was really amazing at the time is, as a mom, we knew that she was severe to moderate. We knew that she wasn't speaking. We tried everything to get her to do certain simple tasks that other children had done years before. And as a mom, for her to be able to repeat the chorus of a song told me that she could learn anything with repetition. It was a huge, huge turning point for me, because it took kind of, it was that little glimmer of hope in the midst of darkness for us. And so that's why we named the book Good Morning Beautiful, because that's the name of the song that she was doing that too. So, and she still loves that song. Don't you?